It's another edition here on Zero Block 30, and today we have 5 rounds of the magazine. Round number 1, politics can be contentious from time to time, but we can all understand taking a big old nasty dumper on your neighbor's porch if the situation warrants it. Round number 2, the dumbest guy in Congress might have an idea that's worth exploring regarding me and Khan's beloved moon. Kate's going to love this round. Kate, you wrote this. You wrote the rounds today, so you do the honors. You sing this.
Okay. You say potato, I say potato. You say cicado, I say cicado. Cicado, cicado, cicada, cicada. Let's call the Biden press plane off.
Nailed it.
Yep, a swarm of cicadas shut down the entire presidential flight. Not bad for a group that hasn't had practice in 17 years. Also, old Joe killed one of those things straight up on his neck. Came up, tried to bite the president. First of all, where was the Secret Service?
Yeah, they were sleeping on the job.
And in the same thing that they were at, Secret Service agents, cicada got into his suit, which is also embarrassing for the Secret Service. How does he sneak in there?
Oh, yeah. Would you rather have an embarrassing moment around the president when a cicada gets into your chute, or if you're doing like practicing live fire and you get hot brass down your neck?
Ooh, as somebody who's gotten plenty of hot brass down their neck, and oddly enough, I think I've kept my cool better with hot brass than I would with a cicada, for real.
Let's go to the civilian in the group. Nick, what do you think we mean by the term hot brass?
Hot brass on your neck. Oh man, sunburn.
No,
close.
It's when you're firing a weapon and the expended round, like the casing of the round, will fly out of the chamber and it'll go into your clothes. And whenever it does, it's really hot and it can burn you.
So it's actual brass, like
Yes.
Oh yeah.
on your neck.
Yep.
Okay, I thought it was like an expression.
Usually we have
Already
terms that
then.
mean a whole lot of stuff. Hot brass literally just means hot brass.
Noted.
That's all it means. All right. So round number 4, the Air Force last surviving prisoner of war has retired after 33 years. It's a very interesting story there. You don't think of like the Desert Storm time period or anything like that for prisoners of war. It came across, I was like, how is this? And then I went through it. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that could happen. You don't hear about that fellow that often.
Yeah.
But imagine how much he felt like a big swinging dick around the Air Force. Be like me. I've seen some shit, my
POW.
friend.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Pretty wild.
Because if you see somebody around that age, around 50, I would guess he would have to be 45, 50 years old. You see somebody in that age group and you automatically would call them out for having like stolen valor because they have the prisoner of war medal. Like,
Yeah.
you fucking have that. Where'd you get that?
Okay.
Where'd you get that from? Kosovo? They're fucking boomer.
Yeah. Okay, for round number 5, I didn't really write this round out, but I'm excited about it. Summer is upon us. I can drink again. And I was thinking about the good old days in the smoke pit with my buddies in the Marine Corps. Cracking Friday, we get off work. The first thing we'd all do, head to the liquor store on base, which I have a quiz for you guys later that will involve that. And we get our drinks, we get them all stacked up. We get our hot dogs and hamburgers, everything we needed. And we go hang out at the smoke pit and the grill and get rippy dippy. So
Okay, you're back. You're fresh back. I have a question for Stolen Valor, Katie.
Yes.
What is the liquor store on base called?
That's one of the quiz questions.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
Because
guessing
it
you'll
varies
know.
depending on branches of service. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So we'll get into it in round number 5. That'll be a good one. And all of that
Military
today is
booze.
military booze. And all of that today is going to be brought to you by our good friends at 3Chi. 3Chi is changing the game in the THC industry with their Delta 8 THC products. They are the ones who originally formulated that with the biochemist. It's made right here in the USA. 3Chi's Delta 8 is a federally legal version of THC and is more functional alternative to marijuana. And I have an update on a show that was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where Texas, in fact, did not ban Delta 8 products, which I am super there. I was actually driving back from Austin and there was this huge sign. And for once I agreed with it where it said, "Thank you, Greg Abbott." It's like, yes, I finally agree with that statement. You're keeping Delta 8. But there was a lot of THC, like the Delta 8, the hemp farmers here, they were furious because the amount of money that they've made in the last year when that came legal is off. I bet they're going to be the primary ones who are like, no, we don't need regular weed. This is good.
This stuff works probably maybe even better in some ways for some people.
Well, I was thinking that, and I was also thinking what other businesses popped up during coronavirus that are kind of going to be like, I wish it would stick around. one of those mask makers.
Oh,
Mask
yeah.
maker, make me a match. Like I was thinking when I was going through Lowe's the other day, because they have all these hand sanitizers. You used to not be able to get hand sanitizers. Now they'll have like a 5-gallon bucket of hand sanitizer for like 38 cents. Like you can get it for cheap as shit. So those people have got to be super upset that this hand sanitizer is no longer going to be needed. But what you still will need is 3Chi. So go to 3chi.com, enter the promo code ZBT 2021. You're going to get 5% off on your next order. That's the Delta 8 vapes, the gummies. If you like Rice Krispie treats, so anything you like, essentially, you could do it. And spoiler alert, you can make your own like weed brownies with this stuff, with the oils that they have. If you wanted to make like a little, let's say strawberry shortcake, if you wanted to do that, you could just dump a little bit in there and just have a good time with the whole squad. It'll be wonderful. And so will this show that we're going to start right now. So this weekend, I'm going to go up to Minnesota. I talked about it a little bit last week, but we're going to do a big push. So make sure you're watching the ZBT social channels for all of that. I'm excited to go up there. Finally have got, like last week, I gave you an update on where my golf game was at. I spent some time at the Barstool Classic this week. So I got to hit some drives. And I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of things where I'm not going to embarrass myself completely, which is a nice feeling that I'm not going to be totally embarrassed.
That's definitely good. Number one, let me just start by saying you mentioned strawberry shortcake, and little known fact to the listeners, that's what I call Chaps when he and I are just texting one-on-one.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Little strawberry shortcake.
Oh, strawberry shortcake, Chaps ass. Number two, tell us more about the Barstool Classic, because I saw there were snakes abound and then some other things. But
well, there's a lazy river. That's Kate and I have talked many times on the Chaps and Kate show how we're huge Lazy River fans. Yeah. So we got to go around Lazy River. Not only that, but we got to do. What do you mean?
The golf course had a lazy river?
Yeah, because it was at like a resort. So it was golf club as a resort. So it had a lazy river around it, not around the golf course, but just at the pool. So when we were done after the long day of being out there and watching everybody and hanging out, the whole squad got to go back to the hotel. We changed clothes, put on sunscreen. Safety's paramount, mind you. We got to go in there. We got some palomas and just cruised around the lazy river. It was fantastic. Lovely.
Wow.
That was the best. Damn.
That's very nice. All right. So here's my question for you, Chaps. Now listen. All right.
This is going to be about clothes, isn't it?
I need to know something. I've never asked you this, and I need to know it. You very clearly do whatever makes you happy. And that's not just you. That's everybody. However you want to dress. It's like Frankenstein and Big Daddy. That's what you want to wear.
There's going to be a loaded butt. There's going to be a loaded butt right now.
Good luck walking down the street. But I need to know, because every time you put together outfits, I'm like Al Cervic in Caddyshack. I bet you get a free bowl of soup with that. Looks good on you, though. Like, how do you figure out what you're going to wear?
I just see if I like it. And if I do, I put that on.
Okay.
My entire philosophy about clothes, my wife is stunning. I can do whatever the fuck I want. She's not going to leave me no matter what. If I want to wear a shirt with bananas on it, if I want to wear fucking flamingo pants, I could do all that.
For those who don't know, Chaps wore bright purple golf pants with rainbow unicorns on them, a giant baggy salmon colored shirt, and funky.
Well, the baggy's not my fault, first of all, because the sales team at Barstool has like our sizes and everything in this spreadsheet, a kill roster, some would say. So we have like a kill roster at headquarters, and they're like, we're going to send you some of the Barstool gear. And I was like, okay. They still sent an extra large. Well, I've lost weight. So the extra large that everybody's like, oh, that's a huge shirt. That's an extra large. I'm swimming in that thing. I've lost some weight.
True. Yeah. Everybody's been saying it.
I mean, you look like a clown. If that's how you want to dress, that's fine. But I think you look like a clown.
That's fine.
Whoa.
So, you know.
That's fired.
Well, I
think you look like a clown. How about that?
Well, I think most would agree. I don't. I mean, we don't need to dig up all the old clips talking about this. But I was just curious how it is that you pick out your clothes to wear.
I'm surprised that you're still like, this is 5 years in the making, Con. Like, I'm not going to change. No matter how much you try to subtly shame me, I'm going to wear whatever I want.
No,
yes, you
I'm not
are.
Trying to shame.
That's what you brought it up. Nick, back me up here. He's trying to embarrass me on the pod, right?
I'm not trying to shame. I'm not trying to shame.
If this escalates any worse, you guys are going to be pooping on each other's lawns.
That's exactly.
Oh, there's Katie. There's Katie.
I would love.
Can't enjoy a little tangent.
It says recording pause. Did I do that?
No,
we're recording.
That's well, I paused it on my
Oh,
end. So fuck
all right.
me. All right, let's get into the actual
All the
story
shaming.
before Kate has a nervous breakdown. Kate, what do we got for round number one?
Oh
All
my
right.
God, we
Round,
have to get to the rounds.
round number one, a 70-year-old Ohio man who told cops he was a Trump man confessed to repeatedly urinating and defecating in front of a neighbor's home because the residents are, and I quote, Democrats and support Joe Biden, according to a police report. Jerry Dietrich, the accused septuagenarian serial pooper, was cited Sunday.
Oh no, we're not going to skip over this police report. This police report is fantastic. All right, so I'm going to go through some of the police report. First, it says, this is from the officer, the actual police report. Upon my arrival, I was informed that an individual had defecated on the property of Matthew Guyette at the Broadway, whatever, who is the victim and resident. Matthew had informed Greenville Dispatch on the clothes worn by the subject and the direction of travel of the subject. Matthew stated he witnessed the subject squatted down by the shrubs on his property and stated that he was urinating and or defecating, probably both, because you can't do a number two without number one. That is a hard science fact. Matthew stated that he confronted the individual who got up and walked north on Broadway Street toward Harmon. And then they give a bunch of different direction report. I placed Jerry in the backseat of my fully marked cruiser to speak to him about the incident. Jerry said he was walking home from Danny's Bar. Obviously, honest to God, you're coming from a place called Danny's Bar. I feel like you're allowed to shit wherever you need to.
Well, maybe not necessarily that you're allowed, but there are some things that went on at Danny's Bar that might lead to this sort of behavior.
And this is kind of what Jerry says. Jerry,
when you're walking home from a bar, the world is your litter box, honey. That's
really
my
is.
rule.
You might as well just line that shit with kitty litter all day long, Kate. You're absolutely right.
Thanks.
Jerry stated multiple times he walked by that path every so often when he's out walking. And it should be noted, Jerry lives at 301 Maple. This means Jerry walked past his house to reach his house. And Jerry admitted this to be true. He eventually admitted to urinating in the yard on Broadway Street. I witnessed this confession, and it was also captured on my microphone, which was recorded at the time. All right, Kate, go on with the main story. I would feel so bad to be a cop and have to write that down. Like,
well,
there's one grown man shit on another man's property.
Well, that's what I think is funny, that he can't say that. He has to say, I witnessed a man urinating and defecating. It's just kind of funny to hear those words.
And I'm surprised because, like, Kate knows, like, when you go to MP school or you go to any law enforcement, you can't say for sure what a substance is. You have to say it appeared to be. Like, for instance, if you're doing like a DUI trip, like stop, you would say, and I smelled a smell that would be consistent with alcohol. You can't say I smelled alcohol in his breath because you're not a lab. You can't get that lab test. So I'm surprised here that it didn't say I came across a substance that appeared to be fecal matter.
Yeah. I also like that in the police report, the police officer wrote down, Jerry also stated he does it, shits on Guyette's lawn, because the residents at this, are Democrats and support Joe Biden. And he stated he was a Trump man. And I love this line. This leads me to believe the incident is politically motivated. If a drunk is offering that information up, then the odds are good. Another thing you think about who's teaching your kids in school. Dietrich, the guy who was pooping on the lawn, retired high school teacher. So that's always.
I think, honest to God here, I feel like pooping on a political rival's yard should fall under freedom of speech. That should be protected by your First Amendment.
Absolutely. In a Facebook post following Dietrich's bust, Guyette wrote of an eventful early morning and the apprehension of the man who's been shitting in our front yard for the past 10 years. The pooper, Guyette noted, would leave behind
10 years is
10 years, a
that's
decade
a pattern
is a long
of behavior.
Time.
Yes.
3 or 4
commitment.
crumpled up restaurant napkins he used to clean himself. That was my clue. I had a visitor, he put on his Facebook page. So their poopatrator has finally been caught.
That's premeditated. That's premeditated. He had the
but isn't this the kind of thing,
yeah.
If you're the fellow who has a big old log on his front porch and you have for 10 years, I feel like you're disappointed if it stops, because this is an ongoing thing with your friends that you have in group text, and you're like if we had the ZBT group chat and one of my neighbors, like fucking Ricky from up the road, if Ricky from the road was shitting on my stoop every day, and I'd be like, you'll never guess what happened, guys. And you're like, classic Ricky, back at it again. If one day I text you guys and like, hey, we haven't heard about Ricky in a while. Like, oh yeah, I actually turned him into the cops. I got arrested. You guys would be furious at me.
I'd be pretty upset. And also it's a big miss by Guyette for not putting a bunch of cameras around his property. The footage of that would go viral so quick. You'd be so popular. So
This dude, we'll have to put it out on social because this guy looks like somebody that shits on your porch.
Yeah,
he's
he doesn't look
wearing
70.
a
I'll say
red
that.
Nautica fleece is a dead giveaway for a pooper.
a red Nautica fleece over a red and black lumberjack with no hat to match, worth noting. And then over white tee. Yeah, he just looks like you can see this guy walking home from Danny's bar, just looking to take a growler on the grass. So yeah,
I
it
also
checks
don't
out.
trust people that are older than 55 that don't need any type of glasses.
Well, I remember in high school, I knew somebody who they were beefing with somebody else, and their way of dealing with it was they went and took a shit on the windshield of the other person's car. Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
move.
My buddy in high school, his name was Lee Fuselier. He was one of the Cajuns that I used to live with. He was a big time pranker on people's car. One of his girlfriends broke out with him, did him dirty, cheated on him. So he took a dumper, rubbed it on the air conditioning vents in her car. So every time she got into the car in Pensacola, it was like heated up shit.
No.
So it would go into the car that way.
My
That's-
cousin's kid for a while was taking his poop when he was a toddler, and he would shove it down their AC vents. And she was like, "Why does our house stink?" And he had been shoving his poop down their vents. So yeah, it's a treat. Also with the windshield,
a whole
pooping on the
nother level of
windshield.
like the fart game where you don't mind the smell of your own farts, but everybody else does.
Right, it's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
I
The
don't know,
windshield
There's
thing.
nothing when you have a really shitty, stinky case of the farts. That's hilarious.
It is.
Oh, for sure.
You're
Yes.
just so happy about it.
Yeah, you want to share
Absolutely.
it with the world. Trust me, I know.
Nothing better. Nothing better.
Nothing better.
I'm going to go the other direction on this, though, and say at this point, Guyette can't say anything because this guy's been doing it for 10 years. He owns that lawn now. That's his lawn with which he can do whatever he wants. And if he wants to use
so
it
you're
as a
going with
restroom-
dog method. It's just a marking thing.
Yeah, he's marked his territory. If you haven't done anything in 10 years,
When did that come about, by the way? Because almost every other animal in the animal kingdom sets up by marking, whether it be lions or whoever. They constantly mark with urine or fecal matter. Why did humans stop? Who said that we had to stop?
I'll
that's a
say
good
this
question.
though. I think the urge is still there because we had two perfectly great working toilets in my house growing up. And my dad would still, even if he wasn't working outside, sometimes he would still just go outside and piss behind the shed. Like he just liked peeing outside. Like,
I like peeing in the sink.
yeah, we did that in college. So you didn't have to leave the room and get yelled at.
So you could just kind of like flop your dick onto the sink.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think we do still do that. We just do it in a more civilized manner. You've marked
Pipes
your
don't
territory
count.
in
Once
your
you
house.
introduce plumbing, it ruins everything. It really does.
the worst.
Go ahead.
So you thought we were done talking about pee and poop. The worst was when I was pregnant and I
I
went
would
to
never
take
assume that.
I went to take a flight to be with my baby daddy for Christmas. I was pretty
Mhm.
pregnant at this point, and I had to
Mhm.
pee really bad, and I got stuck in traffic about to go through the Lincoln Tunnel. And so there's people everywhere, cars everywhere, nowhere for me to go. And I said to my Uber driver, I'm like, "Do you mind if I hop out for a second since the car's not going anywhere?" I got out of his car, I squatted down right next to it, I took a piss, and I got back in the car. I was like, "Sorry."
Hey, I'm working here.
Yeah, I was like, "Pardon me," and people were just like, "Oh my god!" Like it was really embarrassing, especially because
But you were also visibly pregnant, so I feel like
Visibly
that's okay.
pregnant. Yeah, so I was
If
okay.
you're
But like,
visibly pregnant, nobody can say boo about it.
but I had to go so bad. I didn't care who saw my vagina. I just did not care. So that's just
You were on the Manhattan side of the Lincoln Tunnel.
yes. Yep.
I think probably nobody even cared. They're just like, oh, there's someone doing that. That's just
Yeah.
part
Just
for
a
the
normal
course.
day.
That's Manhattan.
It's also weird how we are very private about our private parts. Like
Not me
everything else,
anymore.
it's like how we just established that you can't see that one part.
Once you've had a hospital room of people looking at it, you just are
Because
like,
really, your
whatever.
face is more like it's descriptive. Like your face, you can identify somebody. Like if somehow there is a picture of my dick that started floating around the internet, nobody would know that was my dick. There's like maybe 5 people in the world who would know that was my dick. 3 of them are my urologists. I have a team.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair
I
question.
also have a
though,
team of
chaps.
mental. I have a good team of mental health providers with our friends at BetterHelp. Make sure that you trust them like we do at Barstool Sports. We truly love and appreciate our listeners. Without you, none of this would be possible. So every once in a while, we try to bring you something good. I like partnering with folks like this who are actually trying to do a good thing. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat session with your therapist. I think doing like for dog handler term, it's called successful approximation, which just means baby steps. I think having baby steps for different types of mental health is a beautiful idea. Where like, look, I'm not ready to be in your office laying down talking about who putts from the rough. Like, I'm not ready for all that. I want to just sit here on my couch and text you. The fact that you can do that now is awesome. Like, get good, solid advice from actual medical professionals that know how to do that. If you want to check it out and see what all the fuss is about that we've been talking about for a few weeks now, go to BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/0. Kate, just for those military types that are listening, what's that phonetic alphabet?
Baffling. Extra. Taco. Extra. Rambo. Happy. Extra. Apple. Liter. Taco. Happy.
Did you throw in an apple in there?
Did you just spell help? HEALP?
Help.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh man.
Oh no.
That's
I've made a
fine.
grave
I
mistake.
still have the spelling for Marines MCI. We'll get that over to Kate as soon as you need it. Glad to have Kate back with her helpful phonetic
I need
alphabet.
better help again. My brains are scrambled.
Somebody needs to start go to betterhelp.com/0. You're gonna like what they do there. And they're gonna also be a part of the trip that I'm taking to Minnesota, which is awesome of them to hop on that and try to help some folks out there too. It's gonna be great. All right, let's move on to round number 3. This one's a little bit of cicada goofing. Wait, no, it's not.
No.
We're doing moon goofing. Moon
Mm-mm.
goofing. Round number 2. I'm so excited about this one. Like, I came across it here. First of all, here's the audio of this, because there's certain times where you're like, there's no way this story could be true. And Cons and I, when Kate was gone, we talked about it. I think even when Kate's here, we've mentioned it before. When you're growing up in America, you assume that every politician, local level, all the way up to national level, is like a genius.
Yep.
Mhm.
Like, you assume that they're the smartest motherfuckers in the world. And really, intelligence is a spectrum. And some of them are way down the end of the spectrum where they're just not that smart. And you can have conversations with them and be like, no, you don't. How are you in the position that you are? Who let you do this? Like, you know how like NFL players will have the Wonderlic test where they have like an entry level of intelligence. I would love to see just a standardized civics quiz for every congressman, congresswoman that comes into office.
Oh, can you imagine some
Pass the test.
Some excuses they would come up with to get out of that? I'm sure
Oh, they
someone would
wouldn't do
gladly
it.
take it. Yeah.
What do you think percentage wise of people in the House of Representatives? What do you think percentage wise of people that would pass? Like, say you had to do an AP civics exam. I would say
25%.
You think just 25?
Yeah.
That's pretty low.
I was gonna say
Low.
I was gonna say maybe 50.
Damn,
25
kid.
is really low. I don't think we're that dumb.
You know what? Did you ever date somebody that afterwards you're like, what was I thinking? I'm way better than that.
Yes.
Oh my God. How
Mhm.
did that happen? It's because dating is all about tricking someone into thinking you're this great person. That's what politicians do. They can be absolute dog shit. All they have to be able to do is trick you into thinking they're not. And
Right.
that's-
And that usually works because the majority of other people are dumb too. But occasionally you
Right.
come across,
part of it's my fault.
an actual subject matter expert. And so when you have one of these people who typically gets by being, for lack of a better word, kind of charming, like they have a charming disposition about them, you'll come across an actual expert. And when they do that, it's just an absolute train wreck. And that's kind of what happened here. Oh, Louis Gohmert, I think that's how you say his name, who admitted recently some considered him, quote, the dumbest guy in Congress. Here's intent on proving those people.
I respect that he just flat out said, hey, listen, this is my reputation. Hand up.
And, you know, I'm from the South, like I'm from Florida. Most of my family has thick Southern accents. My wife is from Mississippi. So I don't mean this but the stereotype, you hear a thick Southern drawl and you automatically, wrongly, I'll say, assume somebody's unintelligent.
Yes.
That's the reason. That was one of the reasons why Jimmy Carter got shit on so much, because he had a thick Georgia drawl. So people are like, you can't be smart. That's obviously not true. The way that your diction is doesn't dictate how smart you are. But he says, and he sounds like this stereotypical Southern here. Listen to the clip. Here he is talking about the fucking moon.
And I understand from what's been testified to the Forest Service and the BLM, you want very much to work on the issue of climate change. I was informed by the immediate past director of NASA that they have found that the moon's orbit is changing slightly, and so is the Earth's orbit around the sun. We know there's been significant solar flare activity. And so, is there anything that the National Forest Service or BLM can do to change the course of the moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun? Obviously, that would have profound effects on our climate.
I would have to follow up with you on that one, Mr. Gomert.
Yeah. Well, if you figure out a way that you in the Forest Service can make that change, I'd like to know.
All right. So he said, I understand what's been testified to the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management. You very much want to work on the issue of climate change. I was informed by the past director of NASA that they found the moon's orbit is changing slightly, and so is the Earth's orbit around the sun. We know there's been significant solar flare activity, and so let me stop right there. That the preamble of his statement essentially seems like, Louis, you're about to go on some real shit. You're about to drop some real science on us. You're about to fucking hammer this out. The
sheet went out and I read that initially. I'm like, I'm waiting for the stupid part to hit because I was thinking to myself, that's somewhat of a succinct statement.
And so then the next thing he says, is there anything? And I picture this as like in Harry Carey's, like the Will Ferrell's Harry Carey.
If the moon were by to chase, would you eat the moon?
Is there anything the National Forest Service could do to change the course of the moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun? And the look on the woman's face, who is like a representative from the Forest Service. First of all, what the fuck would the Forest Service have to do with the orbit of the moon? Like,
hey man, climate change and all that such things.
The look on her face when she's just like, I think I might have to get back to you on that, because you don't want to say like the Billy Madison line to a sitting congressman, like we're all dumber for hearing that.
Yes.
And this woman, Eberline from the Forest Service, she was only there at the House National Resources Committee to talk about an Outdoor Access Act and a Ski Hill Act. So she was there to talk about, it was called SHRED, the SOAR Act and the SHRED Act. So she's there to talk about this outdoorsy shit. And everyone's asking her questions about that. And here comes Gomert being like, can we change the moon? Can we change the orbit?
I need you to make a commitment to the listener that in the next interview that you do, you have this exact question for whomever it is. Doesn't matter who the subject is. I feel like we got to start asking people about changing this orbit of the old moon, because people want that to happen. I looked into it. There's this book called What If? And if you want like just an unbelievable book to read while you're doing some 3Chi goofing with the promo code ZBT 2021, this book is phenomenal. To give you an idea what kind of goes on in it, they answer like questions that a 5-year-old would give to a science teacher, but they actually do it from a scientific perspective. Like one of the questions is, what would happen if the Earth completely stopped moving? Like if you could just grab it, stop the rotational pull of the Earth, stop the rotation of it completely, and it goes in all the catastrophic effects that would happen to the entire universe. There's a great
Kurt Vonnegut book, Timequake, where he's on an airplane and that happens. Well, the character's on an airplane and that happens, and so he lives. Anybody in the air on a plane lived. I don't know if that's what happened in real life, but it's a great book. You should check it out.
We'll just assume that it does. And also, Kurt Vonnegut almost named this podcast. It was almost, and so it goes.
Whoa.
So, right or wrong, Kurt Vonnegut is one of those authors that when people want to sound like they actually read, but they don't, they say they read him.
100%.
Yeah, they want to impress somebody. They're like, oh yeah, I just read Kurt Vonnegut.
One of my favorite books though is Slaughterhouse-Five.
No, I'll give that to you because I've known you long enough at this point, but I'm just talking about guys maybe trying to impress a girl at a bar. They'll talk about
same thing with Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah. You don't read
Hunter S. Thompson rambles.
Yeah.
Worked on me many times.
Did it? How do you mean? All right, just throwing that out there.
So he's saying guys use Vonnegut at the bar to like get a lady.
Is that what gets you? That's what rev the old Katie engines up.
Books.
Oh, my friend, Slaughterhouse-Five.
No, it was more like there's a guy talking to me sick. Anyway.
So that's basically what happened.
Well, I like this last line though. Read the last line. What happened?
The Texas Republican, for what it's worth, seem to be open for waiting for an answer. Yeah, well, if you could figure out a way that you and the Forest Service can make that change, I'd like to know.
Like, hey, keep me posted on the advancements in the Forest Service if we get to making the moon do some things we want it to do. All right.
And it sucks when you're in that position, when you're a legit subject matter expert about things that are happening. And because of the position of influence that person holds, you can't just be like, you are incredibly wrong. Like, just sit there in your wrongness and be wrong.
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm. I would like to hear some of his ideas, though, for how we might be able to affect the moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit. I'd imagine he'd land on something to the effect of, well, can't we just shoot at it? And maybe that would do something. Or maybe take a plane and go around the Earth really fast.
Louis was one of the only congressmen who said, listen, we need to hear President Trump out about this whole throwing nuclear bombs into hurricanes thing. Like, we need to.
There could be something to that.
Hey, listen.
But honestly, if you think about it, it could work. Like, I think that it would have catastrophic effects, but I guarantee if you, let's say Hurricane Andrew, the real famous Category 5 hurricane, like famous, like it won an Oscar or something. So real famous, infamous, I will say.
His performance was magnificent.
You throw Little Man or Fat Boy in there, you got to think it breaks it up, and it's at least a Category 2.
Chess, but you know what else? We don't know until we try, right?
No, I
speculate, but we don't know until we try. So
maybe not nuclear weapons, but if there's a tropical storm, I'm not against shooting some 155s into that.
Maybe
bring an aircraft carrier and just shoot some, like a Gatling gun.
Well, picture that scene in Forrest Gump when Lieutenant Dan's up in the mast and he's screaming at the hurricane. How much better would that have been if he had an AK? You know?
Yeah, just shooting the hurricane.
If he was just firing.
Did you know he did that on one take?
No.
No.
And it wasn't even written. And it wasn't even written into the script.
Also, not surprised to hear that about the wonderful Gary Sinise. Mr. Sinise, I know you're a diehard ZBT listener from the beginning. We'd love to have you on the show. So please feel free to reach out to us.
You can even sing.
Because
he has a band.
Yeah.
All right. We also have a band, and we have boot bands to go around our Rocky boots. Kate, first of all, judge that transition.
That was smooth as silk.
Thank you very much. Rocky boots built for the men and women that serve and protect this country, designed and built for the U.S. and each individual military branch, to include those big old fucking nerds in the Space Force. Most recently, Rocky boots sided with the United States Marine Corps to give us a tropical boot. We call that the jungle boot with the biz. The boots are flash and water resistance. They have all kinds of stuff. I wore some just today to go mowing. I had a steel toe, keep my little toesies all nice and crisp whenever I was going up the hills, give you good traction, all that stuff. Not only does Rocky Boot make the best boots for our service members, but they make awesome boots if you're just like Kate, might to go goofing up the side of a mountain where you have to call your friends because it's too icy and you might not be able to get down and you're super scared. You could do that with Rocky boots. So whether you need boots for rucking in the desert, working in the yard, or getting outside for a summer hike, Rocky Boots has you covered. Go to rockyboots.com and enter the promo code ZBT for 25% off your next pair of boots. Let's move on to round number 3. This is our guy, Joe. He is hanging out, doing a little flight line. He is aware that there's trillions and trillions and trillions of these cicadas going around. Kate, do you have any firsthand cicada experience?
I remember in Pennsylvania. So there's 15 different gangs of cicadas in the United States. And in 15,
I know about the sharks and the jets. What are some of the other ones?
Exactly.
Oh, the pink ladies and the T-birds.
The T-birds, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's 15 different ones in different regions, and they pop up. Some of the groups pop up every 13 years. Some of the groups pop up every 17 years. And so how old were we? I don't want to give away my age here. So I will say I was,
this is sad. I was 21. I was like, I'm gonna have to go way back into the old Wayback Machine. I was only fucking 21.
Oh my God, I was 18.
I was 19.
Yeah, so we were teens and slightly older.
So this kind of ruins the entire segment. We weren't that young.
Yeah, we weren't that young.
No, but I remember the cicadas came the first time. I think I was in somewhere between 6th and 8th grade.
Okay, so it was a lot.
The last cicada round came when I first moved to San Antonio, and they were all over this Whataburger outside. And it was, and Annalise, we had just moved here, and we thought it was like a yearly thing because in Florida, love bugs are that way. You know, like, are you familiar with love bugs? You have those in the north?
No.
So love bugs are kind of like flies, but they will have their mate attached to their buttholes essentially, and they fly attached at the privates, and they will have like swarms all over the South. And what they were originally, rumor has it, I don't know if it's true, I'll have to get Louis Government from Texas on to make sure that this is actually factual, but they were designed in a lab, much like coronavirus was in Wuhan. They're designed in a lab at the University of Florida, and they were designed to eat the mosquitoes from the Everglades. Well, that didn't work, and they essentially just fly around and fuck up people's cars now.
Okay. All right. That sounds about right. That's like the lanternflies in Philadelphia. We didn't create those, but also scary things. So we were like 18 years old, early 20s.
Is that what you call lightning bugs?
Maybe.
Lanternflies?
No. It's a whole other ball of wax. I won't get
I
into
don't
it.
even know what a lanternfly is.
Yeah.
Oh, they've taken over the Philly area. It's crazy.
Save that for another show.
Anyways, so we were like teens, early 20s last time they're here. I'm going to be 52 years old the next time they're here. Holy shit.
Sure.
Oh my
Sure.
God.
What do you think you're going to be doing at 52?
Oh my God. My son will be driving.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyways,
That's
so
insane.
enjoy the cicadas
Time.
while they're
It's
here, I
nuts.
say. Grab them by their little cicada hands, spin them around, dance. Take them to the
They got
bar.
a bunch of eyes too. They got like 6 eyes.
Yeah, so
they're,
you gotta.
squirrely little dudes.
Also, before we get into the story, they are not locusts, just to clarify.
Thank
They
you,
s-
Kate.
They survive underground for these 17 years by sucking liquid from plant roots. They're under there. They're not sleeping. They're just slurping
Oh,
away.
so they're just fucking hanging out, and then every 17 years, like clockwork, they're just like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta stretch the old legs.
When the temperature of the ground hits 64 degrees, for like the first time of spring or whatever, and it thaws out just about right, and the ground hits 64, that's when they all come out. It's like a
They're
but
not
like,
cicadas aren't
how-
fooling me. This is essentially
No.
the plot of Hocus Pocus. That's what all this
Seriously.
is.
Yeah. How do they know it's 17 years?
They
that's,
just
that's
do,
a bunch of malarkey.
and they can be up. Oh, how do they know? Please,
Yeah.
I've done my research. They molt 5 times while they're underground.
They what?
Okay, they molt their little skin, so they're
Like-
sucking on.
Oh.
Like
They're down there
birds do
sucking
feathers.
on a plant root. They're down there sucking on a plant root. They're getting a little dicey. They
You know
molt
what they
their
like to
skin.
listen to?
Birdie Higgins.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Oh, Seven Nation Army or whatever, right?
Fuck yeah.
But anyway, the 5th time they molt, internally they know this was my last molt before the big go.
Oh, how do they keep? I would lose track. Like, is
Now
this
that
molt
I've-
3 or 4?
right,
Which
exactly,
molt is
yeah.
this?
You would
And
be
you're
the
gonna
one
have
to
just like 2 million pop out, and they were like, ugh, came out
colorful.
1 molt too early.
Well, there can be up to 1.5 million of them per acre. So I have a feeling once a few of them start stirring, they all start stirring. Also, how come we don't see them then when we're digging construction and stuff? Why aren't they like, hey, we hit the cicada layer
That's a great question.
on the way down?
That's a good question. Because if
And they
there's
move?
trillions, they should be everywhere. I mean,
Right.
there's people that post videos. It's not this way here. Those things scream loud, dude. They need to
Yeah.
shut up.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Their din can reach roughly 100 decibels, which is just shy of standing 3 feet from a chainsaw. They are so loud, in fact, that scientists from the Navy's Undersea Warfare
I
Center
don't
have
believe that. They're not that loud. There's no way.
Yep.
A chainsaw's so loud.
In groups, they say if there's enough of them, they can be that loud that can actually, you probably have to go take a hearing test if you're near too many of them. Cicadas, the Navy's Undersea Warfare Center have studied them in hopes of figuring out how the males produce their incredibly noisy mating calls without expanding much effort.
Isn't
how
that
can-
insane that in the Navy you could be an entomologist?
Oh yeah, studying bugs.
Like,
studying
what do you
bugs.
do? I'm a bug guy. And
Does the
they have
Navy
their
do-
own little MOS for it.
Why does the Navy need that?
So they
For
want
this?
to create a device that can mimic a cicada's method of sound production for remote sensing underwater ship-to-ship communications. I don't know what that means, but it sounds smart as hell.
And somebody
Anyways.
has to write that up in a report. And cons, one of the planes that was supposed to go with the president over to Europe when he's going on a speaking trip got shut down because cicadas got into the prop. Like, so
That's
they
the
couldn't
story.
even fly.
That's the story here. The cicadas were flying. The reporters were hoping to join the president in Europe. Reporters were traveling to the UK for Biden's first overseas trip. And then they got delayed 7 hours after their
Oof.
chartered plane was overrun by cicadas. Is it cicada? Is it cicada, gentlemen? Cicada.
Cicada.
The Washington, D.C. area is one of the many parts of the country you're seeing in the news right now because of the Brood X swarm, the largest emergence of these 17-year insects that take to dive bombing into moving vehicles and unsuspecting passerby. One of the best videos I've seen so far was
fearmongery. Swoon X. What are we doing?
I don't know, but
Well, what does it need that much of a name? It's not Operation Phantom Fury. It's Cicadas.
Cicadas. One of the best videos I've seen so far is this super buff, handsome guy. He's like all big. He's got a big grizzled beard. He looks really tough. He's on a lawnmower. And all of a sudden he gets swarmed by cicadas and he becomes he's like a little boy. He's like shrieking, running across the lawn. Anyways, there are trillions of them in Washington, Maryland, and Virginia right now. And even Biden wasn't spared. The president brushed a cicada from the back of his neck as he chatted with his Air Force greeter at Joint Base Andrews for Wednesday's flight. Watch out for the cicadas, he told reporters. I just got one. It just got me. Rough look for the Secret Service #1. The bugs also tried to stow away on Air Force 2 Sunday when VP Harris flew to Guatemala. The cicadas were caught hiding in folds of the shirts of a Secret Service agent. Rough look for the Secret Service yet again. So there you go. The cicadas, which sing to attract mates, seem to be attracted to other loud noises. So they think that once the planes started up, the sound of the engines was like a big horny turn on for.
Oh, it was like their queen bee.
That's their
like,
marketing.
I gotta suck that dick.
Right.
Listen to this. I have a neighbor. Okay. He opens his window basically every night or some point throughout the day and sings at the top of his lungs. And I'll try to get a recording of it, but it's annoying. No, it's terrible.
Is he good?
What does he sing?
It's terrible.
He's just singing to let the joy out of his heart. Cons, let him have
you know
joy.
What? You know what, chaps? You're right. You're right.
Yeah, let him have a little bit of joy.
Sheesh.
Sometimes he sings songs that are known. Sometimes I think he just makes up whatever's in his head, and that's how he lives his life.
If I could sing opera like Luciano Pavarotti,
oh, gosh.
I would be doing that all the time.
Does he have the most beautiful voice in the world? Who has the most beautiful voice in the world?
Yeah, not anymore.
Who has it? Well, yeah.
Most beautiful voice in the world? Oh, that's tough because there's so many different ways you could break that down. I mean, Josh Groban is considered one of the best opera singers right now. But Bublé, before his voice went to shit, like after singing so much, would have been up there for sure. Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston definitely would have been up there.
Yeah. I don't think Mariah Carey so much. I'm being honest. I don't hear her, and obviously she's extremely talented. Maybe not so much anymore, but probably still somewhat. I don't hear that voice and think, "Wow, that's beautiful." I hear someone like a Josh Groban and think, "Wow, that's beautiful."
Oh, here's mine, Adele.
Yes. That could be a good answer. That could be a good answer. Okay.
Yeah, Adele puts asses in the seats when she starts singing. Honestly, if Sia didn't have that weird "I'm not showing my face" thing, she would be up there because Chandelier is beautiful. That song is just absolutely wonderful. Miley Cyrus has a great voice too. Yeah. Not so much speaking, but just whenever she's doing it. Right. But if you don't
something about her speaking voice does it for me though too. Sorry, now I'm going to your transition.
Yeah, very much one of the Simpson sisters, one of Marge's sisters.
Yeah.
It's one of those vibes. If you're not a cicada that gets your mate by using your beautiful singing voice, maybe you can use Roman swipes. They are clinically proven way to last longer in bed. They're effective, easy to use, and fast acting. They're so easy to use, in fact, that they are the official dick wipe of the president of the United States, Joe Biden. They're super easy to use. Just take the swipes out of your pocket, swipe those motherfuckers on. And no, I was going to say give Dr. Jill a run for money, but I'm not.
Don't do that.
That's very inappropriate.
That's impolite.
It is, but they do. I mean, they have sex. Look at, they're so happy.
Chaps,
Valentine's Day, whenever
some
they were
respect for the office.
No, I mean, that is respect. I mean, you have a stressful day of all kinds of mission briefs and intel. You got to go home and clear the old cobwebs out. And you don't want that to happen in 20 seconds. I'm not saying that President Biden is a two-pump chump. Not saying that at all. He might be able to fuck for a long time. And if that's the case, good on him. But I am getting older. I don't have that kind of stamina anymore. So I like to use, this is fucking ridiculous. Go to GetRoman.com/0. You can use your first month for just $5 when you use the monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/0. Let's move on to round number 4, an actual military story coming in on this military podcast. And this one has to deal with the last POW for the U.S. Air Force. Few people have earned their retirement more than Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Rob Sweet, an A-10 attack pilot who was with the 476 fighter group who flew his final flight at Moody Air Force Base in Georgia on Saturday. Over the course of his 33-year flying career, Sweet destroyed Iraqi tanks in Operation Desert Storm, survived 19 days as a prisoner of war after being shot down just outside of Basra, and came back to mentor countless young pilots as he rose through the ranks. It may come as a surprise to some that there were any prisoners of war still serving in the military, but Sweet still remembers his own capture clearly. And we're definitely going to try to get this guy on the podcast, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, this is it. I'm a dead man, the pilot recalled. On February 15th, 1991, a month after the start of the Gulf War, Sweet was flying a mission to hunt down Iraqi Republican Guard tanks about 80 miles north of the border with Kuwait. It was the 24-year-old lieutenant's 30th mission of the war, and he was a little keyed up because he and his flight lead, Captain Phyllis, found would be far from help if anything went wrong. His instincts were right. When they arrived at the target area, they were met by a heavy anti-aircraft fire, and the two pilots were ordered to turn around and leave. But on their way back, they found a target they could not pass up. We left and found a pristine array of tanks that had not been hit, which shocked us because at that point, everything had been bombed for the last 30 days. The airmen attacked, and Sweet had already dropped his bombs when a surface-to-air missile raced past him. I looked back and saw that the rear end of my right wing was all up in flames. Oh man, I'm hit, I yelled as I started to go south. And that gives me chills just thinking about it. Like, and we've had other prisoners of war on the show. And like Charlie Plum was one, and he talked about that same feeling. And Robert Sweat, who happened in World War II, where you look back and you must have, like they talk about your life flashes through your eyes. I would imagine you have a little bit of that, but also every ounce of training flashes before you. Because
what am I supposed to do here?
Because you're not thinking that. I would imagine in flight school, even if you're going to be an A-10 pilot, like who's clearly like your mission is going to be like when shit's going down, you're not an A-10 pilot because you're going to be hanging out with the rear of the gear. Like that's not what they do. So when that kind of thing happens, you've got to, I can't even imagine what it must feel like how scared you would be because you're not around anyone at all. And that's when he said, oh man, this is not looking good. Before I hit the ground, about 200 guys came out of these little holes. I didn't have a chance to get I didn't have a chance to get my radio out of my survival vest and talk to anybody. Sweet tore his Achilles tendon upon landing. God damn. And then the real misery began. The airmen received several rifle butts to the head from Iraqi soldiers before a few officers dragged him away. Later that night, they threw me in a car and drove like maniacs to Baghdad, where he arrived on February 17th. Over the next 17 days, Sweet endured beating, starvation, disease, and plain boredom sitting in the stone floor of his 8x15 prison cell. I did lots of thinking. One time I thought about all the different flavors of ice cream. I had a craving for a vanilla scoop dipped in chocolate. I also thought about getting a master's degree in history and doing something good, like volunteer work for the Red Cross. But what bothered me the most was thinking about my poor mother. I knew she would cry a lot, and I prayed for her to give her strength. Some of the prisoners of the war from earlier conflicts, such as Vietnam, waited for years before their release. Thankfully, on March 6th, Sweet was released along with 15 other American prisoners. 19 days later and 13 pounds lighter than when he was captured. In total, 23 Americans were captured during the Gulf War, many of whom were beaten and tortured, according to the National Park Service.
Why?
I didn't
Is that
know
right?
that somehow. I didn't know that.
How's that their job?
Yeah. Why would they be reporting on those numbers?
Well, aren't they the ones who deal with changing the moon's orbit too?
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of shit I had no idea. This is a big episode for the park.
Maybe we need to be giving the Park Service a lot more credit.
7th branch of service, right?
Seriously. Yeah.
I mean, we got to bump Coast Guard down.
Yeah, we might have to. Smokey,
get them in
Smokey the Bear on the horn.
Yeah. So he says that we took off from Saudi Arabia where the sun was shining and it was like going from hell to heaven. And then it hit me. I thought, boy, that was a really nasty place. Talk about the understatement of a century. On the ground, I saluted General Schwarzkopf, shook his hand, and gave him a big old hug. Tragically, Sweet's old flight lead, Captain Phyllis, was killed while trying to draw fire and coordinate a search and rescue attempt during Sweet's capture. Phyllis was possibly awarded the Silver Star for his action, though some, including Sweet, are still calling him to be upgraded to the Medal of Honor. I do not understand why we are so adverse now to giving out the nation's highest award for valor when people clearly deserve it.
Right.
The difference between the way that they awarded the medal in World War II and previous conflicts to that and what we do now is bullshit. It denies and it's not saying that the medal should be like politicized at all, but I don't think that you should look back in history and say that this act of valor, which is clearly the same, giving up your life in service to your country and in service of your fellow man or woman in combat is the same exact time, no matter what the calendar says. It's the same exact sacrifice.
No matter
Like
the
Captain
conflict.
Phyllis was killed while trying to draw fire. He knew exactly what could
He
have
could have
happened
flown
to him. And
away.
to him, it was worth it to save his buddy. So yeah, I think that deserves the Medal of Honor. So
Yeah, the fact that Alwyn Cash is still Sergeant Cash is still being bounced around, and that hasn't just been confirmed is crazy.
Yeah.
And he says, I was not without physical, psychological problems. I had survivor's guilt, and it took me a long time to get over it. But through those struggles, the airman said that he learned how to take his life as it come. The experience changed me. I take life a lot easier than I used to. Smell the flowers, keep from getting upset over the little thing. I'm more patient. Right now, I just want to relax and run around with my friends from high school. I don't regret going over there, fighting and getting shot down. That's what I took an oath to do. I think that hits. I think that hits the nail of basically anyone who's had a near-death experience. I talked about it recently with Sebastian Unger when he nearly died on a camping trip. It's not just for military members or people that serve on the front lines or do any of that kind of stuff. You have a near-death experience. You walk away, at least for a little while. I will say that it's fleeting. It doesn't stick around with you forever, but you do have an appreciation for smaller things. And I think that what he points there is so poignant, where it's the things that you take for granted, the simple things, a vanilla ice cream cone dipped in chocolate.
Yeah.
It's the things that you never think that you're going to miss until it's gone. You start thinking about did I take every opportunity? Obviously, he still thought that he had something left to give, and he wanted to go back and get a master's degree and better himself. I think that those kinds of stories of all the people that we've interviewed over the history that we've been doing this show, those types of things stick out to me. Like, yes, we need to appreciate where we're at in the moment, because this life is fleeting. It could be gone in an instant. So do everything that you possibly want to do, and do those things for others that you possibly can now, because you might not have tomorrow.
Yeah, and always get the ice cream. Always get the ice cream.
Yeah, I did that. People were going bananas on Twitter whenever that was my opening order at.
Oh yeah, that was a great move, dude. That looked delicious. What was that?
Well, this is what I do. This is my philosophy. It was a brownie sundae.
Yeah.
So, and it was warm. Like, that's a game changer.
Amazing.
If I look at the menu and nothing absolutely just blows my dick off on the menu, I will go back and I'll look at the dessert menu, because I'm not just going to force feed myself something for dinner if I'm out. Because usually if I'm eating something, like if I get a good steak or something like that, I'm usually too full for the dessert. So if nothing's there and it's a small menu like this place is at a hotel, and nothing blows me away, I'm opting with the dessert.
Why not?
What? I love that, because guess what? Society tells you otherwise, and you're standing up for all of those little kids who told their parents, I want ice cream. Well, no, you can't have ice cream until you eat your dinner. Why? Well,
you know what I did after I got that meal? I also ordered on the side a nice fruit salad and a thing of carrots and hummus. So I
thought this was another transition to an ad. I also ordered myself a 25% off rainbow. No,
I wouldn't have had that problem though, Kate, if I would have went with Trifecta Nutrition, if they'd have had that bad boy at the old hotel, but they didn't, because those things are convenient. They'd even save the bartenders some time, so they don't have to spend hours doing meal prep every single day. They stick to nutritional goals that keep your precise macros. Kate, you always track your macros. It's fucking annoying.
And my macros too, but mostly my macros.
Yeah, you track all that stuff. It's science-backed nutrition. All of the every time I think of science now, I'm gonna think of that dude just talking about fucking the moon. You get fresher food from the
Could
farm.
you fuck the moon?
I know.
If you could, I'd toss it down. I'd chase it down with a tall Budweiser.
And you can get gluten-free options. Also, spoiler alert: did you guys know that tortilla chips don't have gluten?
No, sure didn't. Never thought about it.
I'll be honest. I know gluten's supposed to stick stuff together, like it's supposed to be something sticky. I have no idea.
Are you saying that because it has the word glue in it?
No, I think that's what binds bread together, isn't it?
Okay.
It's a protein, I think, right?
I think we don't know. But the people at Trifecta
Wait, let's
Nutrition
keep guessing though.
I don't want to keep guessing. Shop for meals and plans at trifectanutrition.com. Use the promo code 040. You're going to get 40% off your meal prep. It's a great deal. Everybody likes it. It tastes delicious. And you can even throw it in your air fryer if one of your co-hosts gets it for you for Christmas. Let's move on to round number 5. This one comes to us from the baby girls, the platoon, the booger platoon. Let's get into this. What do we got here, Kate?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the good old days of boozing in the military. I don't know. I was just missing my buddies. You know, Memorial Day was just here. You're texting with your old friends and stuff like that. And just memories flying around and old drinking in the smoke pit. So I asked on the Zero Blog 30 Twitter, what drinks, one alcohol and one non, do you most associate with the military? Now, the most common answers we got were, of course, Rippets, watery coffee, like the coffee you make in your MRE kit and stuff like that, and like being out in the field. Bug juice. We didn't have that in the Marine Corps, at least I didn't. Bug juice, but it's like in the chow halls for the Navy and stuff. Any of those, like,
yes,
the big containers of like Kool-Aid and stuff like that. They called that bug juice. And then on the liquor side, whiskey and rum far and away ran away with the booze choice there. At Wara Zaffa said Tiger beer and Gatorade bottles filled with chew spit. Absolutely. That's Frozen Sauce 780 said AMFs and hot ass water left in the sun at 29 Palms. AMFs, adios motherfuckers. That's what those are. Have you ever had one?
No.
It's like California's idea of the Long Island iced tea. It's like their version of what you would get. It's this bright blue, sugary sweet. We used to get them all the time when I was at Pendleton. Adios motherfuckers. And it truly would be. See you guys tomorrow. We're about to get
Long
fucked.
Island iced tea should be one of the drinks that is, I think Congress should step in and establish a law. It cannot be called that. Because if you have somebody
It's
like
so
me
deceiving.
that grew up at like a Christian household that nobody was really drinking cocktails, you're thinking a Long Island iced tea, how bad can this be?
Right.
And then you take a couple sips and it doesn't even taste like alcohol.
Nope.
It tastes delicious like a tea. How that happens, that is legitimately the devil's work. Like that's the only way to explain it. My first Long Island iced tea, I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and it was happy hour, so you could get doubles. You can get double Long Island iced tea for $8. And I had a few. And whenever I went back to base, I vomited all over.
Because it's bottom of the barrel liquor in those too.
Yes.
It's all the well liquor.
Yeah. Adios motherfuckers. And can't you just taste the hot ass water? In Afghanistan, all we drank for water was pallets and pallets of water bottles that had been sitting in the hot sun for months, and it tasted
Blue top
just
or
like
white
plastic.
White
we
top.
had a little bit of both.
It was white top guy. Blue top tasted gross.
It did.
It's like Aquafina.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, it was. So the tough times out there. At Secure Florindo said 30 years ago when I was in, it was basically any type of beer and purple bug juice, crystal light grape. We used purple to drink and clean the heads on submarine trips. They would clean the bathrooms with this powder, and they would also drink it. So there you go. And then, of course, at T. Holmgren said Foster's and O'Doul's. If you're ever stuck overseas during the Super Bowl or Christmas, you know the taste of non-alcoholic beer all too well. They tried to use it for morale. So
is there a specific drink for you that reminds you very specifically of anything in the Marine Corps or military? For me, it's Aquafina, or Aquarius is what it was called. It was like Japanese Gatorade. And I would love to have some now. I don't know if you could even buy it in America, but it's, like sometimes Gatorade or Powerade or whatever can be a little too sweet. Like it's like has way too much sweetness for if you really need to be refreshed after doing something hard outside or doing something like that. Aquarius was perfect. It was almost like watered down Gatorade, where I think it makes it perfect. I love that one. That one's mine. What about you, Kate? You have any?
Mine would be anytime I got a canteen at work, like I went to Army Navy store and got a canteen just for a skit or something like that. The smell, as soon as I opened it up, I was like right back on Paris Island. The smell of the canteen, and there's always that little bit of slime right inside of it. And then Jameson was in the smoke pit. There was always, we'd always get the bottom level beer, but we'd also always splurge on a big bottle of Jameson that we just pass it around and do mouth swigs of it all night. So
I think you're exactly right about that, because one of the other popular answers that I saw on social a lot was whiskey, like just straight up whiskey.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be a caveat there. It's never good whiskey. Like you have so many military guys and cons. I'm sure it might have been a little bit different for you in officers circles, but people would drink like Jack Daniels on the rocks or something like that. Like that's not good fucking whiskey. Like, or they would.
That's not meant to be drank on the rocks.
Right. Like that was the big thing that they like, oh yeah, I'm a big whiskey guy. No, you're drinking fucking Jim Beam, dude. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Not great.
I don't know why, but I just always think of Southern Comfort. I don't drink it ever
now. A big one, yeah.
But I just remember we had a bottle of Southern Comfort being passed around a circle of guys before our ball when we returned back to the States after Iraq. So I can remember that. And then anytime I have
Captain Morgan's and fucking Dr. Pepper was a huge drink too.
That's an interesting combo. I never heard of that one before. But actually, no, I think it's Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
No, but like Dr. Pepper shots, isn't that basically what that is?
Could be. Hard to say.
Probably. And then also
I haven't taken a shot in like 15 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. And then just anytime I have one Lipton tea bag in any sort of paper cup, the little small 8 ounces, that just always brings me back because that's all I would drink when I was on the night shift. I would just keep slugging
hot tea.
Yep.
Mothers with the Earl Grey. I can't, even in this combat environment, I can't get my breakfast tea, Mama. Please send it in a care package. Oh.
Tea.
Unbelievable.
All
right, what do we got?
So wait, no, hold on.
Oh.
I don't know why I keep doing this. I do this to myself. I know I'm doing it to myself, but I'm going to do it anyway. You guys are talking about drinking shitty beer. Believe me, not that, any sort of, and I don't want to offend any of our sponsors. So I don't think the, light beers of the world are just some like highfalutin big time beers, but I never went and drank anything crappier than that. Like I'm sure I think there's a rung below that.
Oh yeah. Like I'm not going out and getting fucking Kirkland beer, dude. I'm not drinking Steel Reserve
or Milwaukee, like the Beast, Milwaukee's best.
I will say we drank a shit ton of just straight up Miller High Life while we were cleaning the barracks for field day. That was the go-to.
Yeah.
The champagne of beers though.
Shout out to Large. Large always every year at the Christmas party, Barstow Christmas party, he brings a cooler with 40-ounce Miller High Lifes and
like
just
the champagne style bottles.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, let's do your cake.
Boozy pop quiz. What is grog and name 2 ingredients?
Okay. Well, there's no 2 specific ingredients for it.
There's any
exactly.
ingredients.
That was a trick question.
But the grog is essentially like it's if you allowed 6th graders to spike a punch bowl and you gave them booze to do it, that's essentially what it turns into. So when I was the Mr. Vice at our mess nights, so you're in charge of the grog and doing all that stuff, I would do it as gross as absolutely possible. My base for it, because usually for a punch or something like that, you're gonna for jungle juice or whatever. That's what it is. It's like
it's a military hazing jungle juice that is given out at like certain balls and dining events.
Yeah, I would say it's not a hazing thing though. It's a little
no, but I'm
more
saying,
symbolic of things.
But I'm saying,
there's hazing in it.
No, there's hazing because the ground coffee, dirty socks, hot sauce, alcohol. It's like what we made each other drink when I was on the rugby team and we like hazed each other down the rugby team. Shit like that.
My point is that I'm sorry, I just want to give some more insight maybe for Nick here because he's never heard, but there's a big to do about it. Somebody will get up and say, I'm putting this in and this represents this, that, and the other thing. I'm can't really give an example. So they make a show.
Oh, we didn't do that. We didn't do that.
Yeah, so
you weren't allowed to know what was in it.
No. In the Army, at least in the units I was in, everybody, like different people within the leadership chain of command would get up and they would add something to it. And they would say, I'm adding this and this represents, and go off on something a little more formal.
I'm going to say something I never thought the Army does it better. That's a better way to do it.
Yeah, it's not, for us. It's not about like, hey, just make something gross for you to drink. This is something that has a little more meaning to it on what we just did for the last year.
I love that.
What's next?
Number 2. What was I drinking the night I got knocked up?
Margaritas.
Oh,
I say margaritas because it's quicker. That's not the case.
Tequila.
Nope.
Smirnoff Ice.
Pina colada with a rum floater on the top. Had about 10 of them. Number 3.
If you like pina colada.
What is the liquor store called on a military base and why?
Class 6.
Class 6. And that's because there's 10 classes of supply.
Yes.
And number 6, so like class 3 is petroleum, oil, and lubricants. Class V is munitions. I don't know what the fuck that is, but class 6 is anything sold in military exchange. George Washington's favorite drink, what was it?
Eggnog.
I would say, that's a good guess. I mean, you can't even fucking cool milk then. Like it's
It was a
non-pasteurized
dark
milk.
porter beer laced with molasses. And final question, Lyndon B. Johnson's
He
favorite
loves
drink.
molasses. I went up to old Mount Vernon one time and I had some ginger snap cookies. They fucking love molasses.
I
up
love
there.
molasses. It's good.
Me too.
Overlooked. Big time overlooked.
Mhm.
Lyndon
Yeah.
B. Johnson's favorite drink.
He's a
Oh.
coxman. So I would
Yeah, it doesn't
say-
matter. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
it is. All that you need
Yeah,
to know
just
is
a
he had a
big old wiener.
giant heaving
Yeah.
penis. And that's
Yeah.
it. Anyways, I
He
have a
probably
homework for you
if
too.
if you name your penis, you're a huge screwdriver guy.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
big time screwdriver guy.
Or I would say a Tom Collins guy.
No, I think it's screwdriver. You walk into the Oval and Lyndon's there, and he's just got a highball rambler, just absolutely filled to the brim with orange juice and shitty military grade vodka.
And I won't get too into it, but I have homework for you too. And you have to report back at the next episode. Cons, you have to make yourself a fish house punch and tell the military story behind that.
Okay.
And chaps, you have to make a Guadalcanal cocktail because you're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. There's a little whiskey in it. So you guys I'll
Okay.
send you the recipes for those. And I will be doing a shot of Jameson straight from the bottle near someone smoking a cigarette while a bad country song plays by a grill overlooking cheesy brats. Fun side note, my first ever Mad Dog 2020 and my first ever Four Loko was in the military. So that's my segment on booze. I was just thinking about
A little-
alcohol.
Yeah, that'll happen once you didn't have any for a long time. All right, let's
Yeah.
move on to save rounds and alibis. Nick, we'll start with you. What do you got, pal?
Save rounds. Just became an uncle for the second time. I told you guys before we hopped on. So
Woohoo!
that happened a little bit
Mhm.
earlier today. So congrats to my big bro and
Hell
his
yeah.
wife, Marissa. So
Do we have a name or do you not want to share?
I don't know if they're sharing yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother is weird with that stuff. So I
Yeah.
don't
fair
know.
enough.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go public. Yeah.
What a weirdo.
Total
Yeah.
weird.
I'll go
All
next
right.
on the baby front. I had mastitis in my tits. My tits
Mhm.
got infected. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I read that blog. That was scary.
I thought that maybe people were messaging me like, oh, my wife was in the hospital for a week with that. Like people go to the hospital for it. Like it's a really bad infection in your tits when you're breastfeeding. Didn't know. So anyway, that's been fun dealing with that. And the pain of that, I used to say I would rather get shot than get pepper sprayed again, which sorry, chaps, I've never been shot. Maybe it is much worse than getting pepper sprayed.
That's not that bad.
but I now would say I would rather get pepper sprayed than getting this infection in my tits again. So there's that.
Yeah, because you got to like massage it out, right? Like it's essentially like a big old titty mosquito bite.
It's just rocks all up inside it. And then your nipples are just on fire and they're burning. And oh
Like
my
kidney
God.
stones of the breast.
It's like
essentially?
kidney stones of the breast. Some women were like, my husband tried to suck the blockage out. Like you've been.
Oh, I've
snake bitten."
heard that. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, pretty crazy. So it's not a good time. But anyways, I'm fine now. Well, sort of. Still feels like riding a boogie board made of cheese graters. So cons?
Sure. The one story about Colonel Sweet. It's one thing if you're a pilot, you're already pretty cool, but then to have a sweet name like Sweet, that's pretty awesome.
True. That's true.
And then there were a lot of people asking us what we thought about the kid from Navy who got told he can't play in the NFL.
His fighter pilot name should have been Dude.
Yeah.
Sweet dude.
Dude, sweet.
Sweet. Yeah.
Who's flying up there?
Sweet. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that kid can't go play in the NFL. That's just a Navy problem because obviously we have the DOD-wide policy now that the academy grads can go do a pro sport. So my guess is he pissed off the wrong person and they did that to him. So it's unfortunate. Feel bad for him, but
Came from the SecDef though.
did it?
Yeah.
I thought it came from the Secretary of the Navy.
No, the Sec Navy actually gives it out, but the order comes down, the approval comes down from the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, so the policy was in place though for him to do that. So I
Yeah,
think
they're not approving anybody right now.
That's not.
That'd
That's
be-
not. I mean, that's not
well,
true
because
because Radigan from the Army
it's
is
based
at-
on MOS though. It's based on MOS. If you're in a critical needs MOS, they're not going to let you out. It was the same way with us, like with certain things. If you wanted to lap move, like for example, me as a dog handler, whenever I was coming up on my reenlistment, I said I wanted to be a drill instructor, and they said we have a critical short of dog handlers. You can't do it. That's essentially what the Navy's doing here. His job is needed. They need people in those positions, so they're saying no. Like, I get it. Like, I get both sides of the argument. I really do. Like, understand it's a great recruiting tool. But who really is watching a game and sees some dude who realistically might be like a special teams guy, a filler guy, and is like, fuck, man, now I got to join the Navy. That guy went to the Naval Academy.
No,
now I got to go.
Maybe not necessarily on that side, but I will say the schools use the heck out of it to recruit.
Yeah, it is different whenever you're dealing with somebody like a David Robinson goes #1 overall or whatever. Like, David Robinson, I think, is different. Like, if you have a superstar athlete, you let him do it. But if it's a fill-in roster guy, and I don't know anything about this kid, he might be the next fucking Ray Lewis. Like, you never know. But my feeling is that this is a critical need, MOS, and that's the reason why they do it. And that's a risk when you go to one of the academies.
Well, no, but my point was that like the coaches at the
are boring.
The coaches at the schools use it as a tool where it used to be, hey, now you have to worry about going to the NFL. Now, if you're good enough, you can go to the NFL.
Yeah, and that rule's changed like 5 times in like the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But this was the policy from Esper was the first time it was very clean cut in terms of like, all right, this is just blanket across every branch.
Mattis reversed it, and it was clean before because they were letting that Navy kid, the quarterback, go. And
Keenan Reynolds,
yeah, it's just all over the place. Anything else, Cons?
I'm going to Napa, California tomorrow.
Jealous, big time jealous. That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
I'm actually super pumped. After this trip to Minnesota, I'll have 1 state left on my.
That's pretty cool, tour. Dude. I didn't realize you had been to all, or 48, I guess, at this point.
Wow.
Yep, the only one I have left is Alaska. That's it, and it's my favorite state.
Time out. Okay, I have some. Like, what did you go to Idaho and the Dakotas for?
Well, when I went to Idaho, I had to go. I think that was with the Secretary of Transportation. It was one of the worst Secret Service missions I've ever had to do. There's like 2 people in the audience and they needed a dog handler there. So I was there for a couple days. That was in like 2005 or 6, something like that. And then the Dakotas, we did a lot of training in the Dakotas because it's just like wide open. So we would go up there, do some shit. And then I just did a lot of traveling when I was in college, like before, because I was like did like mission trips and shit all over the place.
Okay, interesting. Wow.
I've been very fortunate, been able to travel a lot.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
While wearing weird clothes.
Napa. Drink some tea on the plane. Fancy.
Yeah. Also, Kate, you'll be glad to know I already got bumped up to first class, so you'll be happy to know that because I have so many miles. I mean, can I give a little staff NCO advice to the listener here?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I saw this from a billionaire. So this is actually good advice. I don't remember which billionaire it was, but I remember it being a billionaire. He says, if you purchase anything online, if you purchase anything in a store, and it's not something that's like your mortgage or a car payment, and you don't put it on a credit card, you're an idiot.
Yes.
Because you are just throwing away value. Like, and that's essentially what I've done is put every single thing that I ever buy on my credit card and then just pay it off at the end of the month. And that's how I get all these miles. That's how I get bumped up.
Right.
And I don't buy anything crazy. It's just, that's what I use.
Yeah. You don't overspend and spend outside your means, but if you're going to, if that money is going to come out of your bank account one way or another, why wouldn't you do it?
And debit, you're not protected. With a credit card, you can be like, that's fraud. And they'll be like, okay, we'll take it off right away.
Right. Yeah.
So it's safer for you as the consumer. As long as you're smart with your finances, you could do that.
Yeah.
That's a little bit
that
financial
might be
advice. Yeah, it is risky for some folks who can't do the same thing. Lastly, we've been posting this fella on Instagram every now and then. He's a Marine motivational dude on TikTok.
I love him.
So many of the descriptions, like the baby girls of Platoon, they are crushing these captions that whenever we post this guy, because they nail him to a T. And I love this dude because I think that there is something very different about the Marine Corps. And I can't speak for the other branches of service, but Marines are
Can we play
Marines
it? Can we close out the show playing it?
Yeah. Well, so we'll play it after I'm done talking about it. But this guy is the embodiment of everything that you believe Marines are like.
Yes.
Like where he's this barrel-chested dude that has shitty tattoos from the 80s. He's still wearing his dog tags. He's in a room that is draped, and I would just say a smattering of different Marine Corps emblems, tractors, paraphernalia all over the place. And he's so excited that he's gained this following on TikTok, and it just makes me, because it's so genuine.
Yes.
And you could tell he just wants to connect with other Marines on social media. And when he says, he kind of talks to himself, even though there's nobody else in the room, he's blown away by the response before the response even happens. So he's like, let's get motivated today. Wow. Okay. And then he starts going through all the different bases. Okinawa, Hawaii, Camp Lejeune, Fort Gordon. And the way that he does it is so much the roll taker's job in like the Marine Corps, whenever you're calling roll, like at the beginning of the day, and the fluctuation, it's just absolutely chef kiss. We're going to close out the show instead of the normal retreat. Here's the motivator of the day. And look, I want to make a promise to the listener. If you DM me, you DM the ZBT account,
yes,
and you say you want one of these style shout outs, we're going to start doing these type of shout outs on the show because I think it's beautiful. Sergeant Johnson, Camp Lejeune, have a motivated day. Here he is. Sound the retreat.
Good morning, devil dogs. Let's get motivated today. Here it is, hump day. Woo! Let's do it. Wow. All right, Camp Lejeune, Pendleton, Okinawa, Hawaii, Alaska, Norway, 29 Palms, Yuma, Arizona. Let's all get up and get motivated this morning. Yeah. Woo! Got a few shout outs. Sergeant Olivia and her son Samuel. Yeah, get motivated. Fort Gordon. Get up and get motivated. Lance Corporal Langley, 210 Golf Battery, Artillery. These guys, get up. Let's get motivated this morning. Lance Corporal Prue. Good report.